Let me tell you exactly how it ended. The moment I slapped my husband's mistress, he snapped. He broke my leg and threw me into the cold darkness of the basement. Broken, bleeding, but not defeated, I dialed the one number I swore I'd never use. I called my father, the ruthless head of the Moretti crime family. Dad, I whispered through the pain, I want them dead. Leave no one alive. It was supposed to be a celebration, our third wedding anniversary. I had cut my trip to Paris Design Week short, eager to surprise Marcus. I imagined his smile, the warm embrace, the champagne. Instead, when I pushed open the heavy oak doors of our Hamptons estate, the sharp clack-clack of my stilettos on the imported marble floor was the only greeting I received. Silence hung heavy in the air, but it wasn't empty. A trail of clothes, a woman's red silk dress, expensive lingerie led like breadcrumbs of betrayal up the winding staircase to our master suite. My heart hammered against my ribs, cold sweat slickening my palms. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, I lied to myself. Maybe the housekeeper is just organizing. But that fragile hope shattered instantly when I heard the guttural, familiar moans drifting from behind the bedroom door. Marcus, baby. What if your wife comes home? The voice was sickly sweet, dripping with mock concern. Vanessa. Vanessa, Blackwood. My maid of honor. My best friend since boarding school. Don't worry about her, Marcus grunted, his voice thick with an excitement he hadn't shown me in years. She's stuck in Europe until tomorrow, and even if she walks in right now, who cares? She's just a broke designer without me. I pay the bills. I own her. I stood frozen in the hallway, trembling so violently my teeth chattered. For 3 years, I had played the role of the perfect, supportive wife. I had hidden my background, my lineage, just to be normal. And to him, I was nothing but a freeloader. Something inside me snapped, the last thread of my sanity unraveled. I kicked the door open. The sight burned into my retinas, 2 pale bodies entangled on my Egyptian cotton sheets. Elena! Marcus scrambled off her, panic flashing in his eyes before hardening into arrogance. Vanessa shrieked, pulling the duvet up, but that smug, triumphant smirk on her lips told me everything. Elena, listen. It's not what it looks like. Shut up, I screamed, lunging forward. I swung my hand with every ounce of fury I possessed. Crack. My palm connected with Vanessa's face. Her head whipped to the side, blood instantly trickling from her lip. Are you insane? Marcus roared. He didn't check on her. He leaped from the bed and punched me. Hard. Right in the stomach. The air left my lungs. I collapsed to my knees, gasping, looking up at him through tear-filled eyes. Marcus. How could you? You deserve this. He grabbed a fistful of my hair, dragging me across the floor like a rag doll towards the staircase. Who do you think you are? Touching Vanessa? Her father is the CEO of Blackwood Global. You're lucky I even looked at you, you pathetic charity case. Even as my scalp screamed in agony, a bitter laugh escaped my lips. So that's it. You cheated because her daddy has more money. Shut your mouth. In a blind rage, he shoved me. I lost my balance. The world spun. I tumbled backward down the stairs. My right leg slammed violently into the solid oak newel post at the bottom. A sickening snap echoed through the mansion louder than a gunshot. Then, blinding white agony. Stop the drama and get up. Marcus sneered, marching down the steps. He kicked my shattered leg. I screamed, a primal sound of pure torture. Marcus, look. Her leg is twisted, Vanessa said from the top of the stairs, wrapped in a sheet, looking down at me like I was roadkill. What a nuisance, Marcus muttered. He grabbed my arms, dragging me across the floor, my broken bone grinding with every inch. Let her cool off downstairs. No food. No water. Maybe 24 hours in the dark will teach her some respect. He threw me onto the cold concrete of the unfinished basement. The heavy steel doors slammed shut. Click. Locked. Darkness consumed me. I huddled in the corner of that damp, suffocating cellar, shivering uncontrollably. My right leg was throbbing, swollen to twice its size, the pain radiating in waves that made me nauseous. I had lost all sense of time. Was it an hour? A day? Being locked away like a discarded animal stripped away my humanity piece by piece. With trembling fingers, I reached into my pocket. My phone. The screen was cracked, spiderwebbing across the glass. but it lit up. A sliver of hope in the abyss. I scrolled to the very bottom of my contacts, to a number I hadn't dialed in 25 years. It was saved simply as Papa. I pressed call. 1 ring. 2 rings. Speak, a deep, gravelly voice answered. It was a voice that commanded boardrooms and back alleys alike. Papa. My voice was a jagged whisper, broken by a sob. It's me, Elena. Silence stretched on the line, thick and heavy. Then, I heard the distinct sound of a crystal glass shattering against a wall, followed by the scraping of a heavy chair. Elena? Where are you? What happened? The composure in his voice cracked. Marcus. He broke my leg. He threw me in the basement. Every word felt like swallowing razor blades. Papa, help me. Send the location. Under 8 minutes. The line went dead, but I heard him barking orders to his men before it cut off. I sent the coordinates. And then, in the darkness, I started to laugh. A manic, broken sound. Marcus Sterling, the arrogant real estate tycoon, thought I was just a no-name orphan. He had no clue he had just declared war on the dawn of the Moretti Syndicate. My mother had fled that life, shielding me from the violence. But tonight, violence was my only salvation. True to his word, in less than 8 minutes, the house above me erupted. I heard the heavy thud of boots, the crash of expensive furniture, and the screams of terrified staff. Boom! The heavy basement door flew off its hinges, splintering under a massive force. A silhouette blocked out the blinding light from the hallway. Miss Elena, a familiar, gruff voice echoed. Dante, my father's most lethal enforcer. He rushed to my side, his eyes scanning my mangled leg, his face darkening into a mask of pure fury. Animals. He lifted me effortlessly, like I weighed nothing. As he carried me up the stairs, the smell of gunpowder mixed with his expensive cologne, a scent I hadn't smelled since childhood, filled my lungs. In the foyer, the scene was chaotic. 2 of Marcus's private security guards lay unconscious by the door. Marcus and Vanessa were on their knees in the center of the living room, held down by 4 of my father's elite bodyguards. Their faces were masks of sheer terror. Elena. Who are these people? Are you crazy? Marcus screamed, struggling against the iron grip of a guard. I'm calling the police. Leaning weakly against Dante's chest, I looked at my husband and smiled through the blood on my teeth. Marcus, meet Dante. And the men holding you down? They don't work for the police. That's impossible. Vanessa shrieked, clutching her silk robe. Her father is dead. She's a nobody. Outside, the evening sun blinded me as Dante carried me toward a line of idling black SUVs. The back door of the lead limousine opened. A silver-haired man stepped out. Vittorio Moretti. He looked older than the pictures, lines of power and stress etched into his face, but his eyes. They were the eyes of a hawk spotting its prey. He froze when he saw my leg. His hand reached out, trembling, hovering over the injury before pulling back, as if afraid to cause more pain. Dante, his voice was dangerously quiet, like the calm before a tsunami. Get us to Street Jude's. Tell Dr. Eris to prep Theater 1. As I was settled onto the plush leather seats, the partition raised, sealing us in. Who did this? The temperature in the car seemed to drop 10 degrees. My husband, I whispered, the adrenaline fading, leaving only exhaustion. He was with Vanessa. I caught them. My father didn't shout. He didn't rage. He simply picked up his phone. I want everything on Marcus Sterling and the Blackwood family. Yes. Burn it all down. But wait for my order. He hung up and looked at me, a mixture of heartbreak and anger in his gaze. Why didn't you call sooner? For 25 years. I waited. Mom didn't want me in the syndicate, I said softly, watching the city blur past. I wanted to be clean. To live a normal life. A muscle in his jaw twitched. And that normal life led you to a beast who breaks your bones. I had no answer. He was right. My noble independence had earned me nothing but betrayal. At St. Jude's private hospital, a team of specialists was waiting at the VIP entrance. Dr. Eris, the city's top orthopedic surgeon, took charge immediately. My father held my hand the entire way to the operating theater, his grip rough but strangely warm, an anchor in the storm. The surgery was successful, but the recovery would be brutal. When I woke up, I was in a suite that resembled a penthouse more than a hospital room. The panoramic window offered a view of the glittering Manhattan skyline, the very city Marcus believed he owned. My right leg was elevated, encased in a cast. My father sat in a leather armchair under a reading lamp, reviewing a thick dossier. "Papa," I rasped. He was by my side instantly. "The doctor says you'll need 2 months off your feet. But you're safe now, Marcus." "And Vanessa?" "Dante handled the immediate threat," he said, a ruthless glint in his eyes. "Your husband thinks we're just hired muscle. He's probably consulting his lawyers about assault charges right now." I let out a dry, bitter laugh that ended in a wince. "That fool. He has no idea." "Elena," my father sat on the edge of the bed, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "If we do this the syndicate way, Marcus Sterling will be fish food in the Hudson by sunrise. Say the word." I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. I remembered the man I met 3 years ago, the charming, ambitious architect who begged me to design his logos because I had a soul. I remembered the promises, the lies. No, I opened my eyes, my voice cold as ice. Death is too easy. The Sterling family. They built their empire on illegal demolitions and loan sharking masked as legitimate business. I want him to feel a pain worse than death. I want to strip him of everything: his money, his reputation, his name, until he is nothing. Just like he tried to make me. A slow, proud smile spread across my father's face. "That's my girl." He pulled a file from his jacket. "Perfect timing. My intel shows Sterling Developments is leveraging everything they have on the new East River project. They're overextended. And here." He pointed to a highlighted figure. "Your husband embezzled $5.8 million from the company accounts to cover gambling debts in Macau. He hasn't filled the hole yet." I took the file, my heart racing not with fear, but with adrenaline. This was it, the smoking gun. "I need time," I said, a plan forming in my mind. "I'm going to go back. I'll pretend to forgive him. I need to get back into the house to access his private servers and gather the rest of the evidence. It's too dangerous." My father frowned deeply. "Please," I insisted, squeezing his hand. "I need to destroy him with my own hands. I need karma to be absolute." After a long silence, he nodded. "All right. But Dante will be your shadow. Tiefenger Archese." He pressed a button on the wall, and Dante entered silently. "From this moment, my life belongs to Miss Elena," Dante said, kneeling and presenting me with a heavy, customized satellite phone. "Direct line to the dawn. One press of the red button, and we level the city block." I took the phone. It felt heavy, like the weight of a judge's gavel. 3 days later, a disheveled Marcus appeared at my hospital door. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He held a pathetic bouquet of supermarket carnations. "Elena." His voice trembled. I had no idea your father was connected." I masked my disgust with a look of weary resignation. "It's my fault too, Marcus. I shouldn't have hit Vanessa." He rushed to my bedside, relief washing over his face. "Does this mean you forgive me?" "It was a mistake. Vanessa seduced me. I swear, it meant nothing." His clumsy acting made me want to vomit, but the show had to go on. "You've already been terrified enough by my family," I said softly. "Let's put this behind us. When I get home, we start over." Yes, absolutely." He nodded frantically, clutching my hand with his sweaty palms. He had no idea that a hidden camera in the smoke detector was recording his every lie. On the morning of my discharge, my father didn't just send a car. He sent a message. A convoy of 12 armored black SUVs escorted me back to the Sterling estate. The spectacle was so ostentatious it stopped traffic on Fifth Avenue, making the local news. It wasn't a homecoming. It was a hostile takeover. Marcus stood at the grand entrance, his face draining of color as he watched Dante personally push my wheelchair up the driveway. As Dante helped me transfer to the front door, he leaned in, whispering into Marcus's ear just loud enough for me to hear. "If even a single scratch appears on Miss Elena," Dante's voice was a low growl, "the Don said he wants to watch you being fed to the pigs at his farm upstate." Piece by piece. Marcus's legs visibly trembled. He looked like a man standing on a trapdoor waiting for the lever to be pulled. Returning to the house I once viewed as my sanctuary felt violating. The master bedroom was particularly repulsive. Marcus had changed the linens, but in my mind, I could still see the betrayal him and Vanessa writhing on that mattress. Elena, darling, you should rest. I have an urgent crisis at the office, Marcus stammered, pouring me a glass of water before looking for an escape route. Okay, honey, come home early, I said with a warm, practiced smile. The moment the front door clicked shut, my smile vanished. I poured the water into a potted orchid. I wouldn't trust anything he gave me ever again. Dante stood guard outside my door while I opened my laptop. Being the dutiful wife had its perks. I knew every password, every security question. I logged into his private cloud account. It took me less than 10 minutes to find the vault. It was a digital graveyard of his sins. Hotel booking records for the last 6 months, wire transfers to offshore accounts, and folders of videos that made my stomach churn. You animal, I muttered, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I copied everything to an encrypted drive. Just then, a notification pinged on his iPad, which he had foolishly left on the nightstand. It was a message from Vanessa. Marcus, thank God the bitch believed you. I'll wait at our usual spot. I miss you like crazy, baby. I stared at the screen, and a cold laugh bubbled up from my chest. Marcus couldn't even wait 3 days. Perfect. I picked up the satellite phone and dialed my father. Papa. Initiate the buyout. Start quietly accumulating shares of Sterling Developments. Use the shell companies. Consider it done. I hung up and looked out the window. The naive Elena, who believed in love, was gone, shattered along with her leg. What remained was a woman who understood that karma wasn't a cosmic force, it was something you engineered. Miss Elena, are you sure about this? Dante asked later, standing by the door of my walk-in closet. I adjusted a diamond earring in the mirror. The woman reflecting back wore a deep crimson dress, her lips painted a blood red. I had traded the plaster cast for a sleek carbon fiber brace that peeked out from the high slit of my gown. Absolutely, I said, turning to face him. The Sterling family is throwing their 50th anniversary gala tonight. As the lady of the house, I wouldn't miss it for the world. My phone vibrated. A text from my father. Adrian Cross has landed. He will be at the gala. He has the package. I smirked. Adrian Cross, the son of my father's consigliere, and the sharpest financial mind on Wall Street. He managed the syndicate's legitimate investments. The car is ready. Dante handed me a silver USB drive. The video edit is complete. I slipped the cold metal drive into my clutch. It felt like a loaded gun. The gala was held at the Plaza Hotel. The moment I entered on Marcus's arm, the room went quiet. Hundreds of eyes bored into us, society, elites, bankers, rivals. They were hungry for gossip about the downfall of the Sterling marriage, but I gave them nothing but a radiant smile. Elena, you look stunning, Marcus whispered, his hot breath on my neck making my skin crawl. It's a big night, darling. I can't let you lose face, can I? He exhaled, clearly convinced my act was real. The pain in my leg throbbed with every step, a constant reminder of why I was here. He thought he had won. He thought I was just the broken trophy wife. He had no idea he was walking into his own execution. My in-laws, William and Catherine Sterling, approached us, their faces plastered with tight, fake smiles. Since discovering my true lineage, their snobbery had performed a complete 180-degree turn. My dear Elena, how is your leg? William Sterling wrung his hands, sweat beading on his forehead. Marcus can be so clumsy. We are so grateful for your forgiveness. Of course, William, I smiled, scanning the room. I spotted her immediately. Vanessa stood by the champagne tower, wearing a white lace dress that looked suspiciously bridal. She shot me a glare filled with pure venom. Excuse me, I must say hello to an old friend. I released Marcus's arm and limped towards Vanessa, leaning heavily on my cane. Vanessa paled as I approached. She instinctively took a step back. Vanessa, it's been a while. My voice was projected just loud enough for the nearby circle to hear. White really suits you. You look just like the ghost of our friendship. A few stifled giggles rippled through the bystanders. Vanessa turned a furious shade of red. Elena, don't be so smug. Marcus is only with you because he's terrified of your father. I silenced her by placing a single finger on her lips. Shh. Let's not spoil the mood. There's going to be a fun little show later. Try to keep your composure. Before she could react, I turned away gracefully and locked eyes with Adrian Cross. He had just entered, looking sharp in a bespoke navy suit, his gaze piercing behind gold-rimmed glasses. "Miss Moretti," he kissed my hand. "The Don speaks highly of you." "Mr. Cross," I smiled. "I hope you brought the fireworks." "Oh, I brought the whole arsenal." We parted with a nod. As the party reached its peak, William Sterling took the stage. He boasted about the glorious achievements of Sterling Developments, conveniently omitting the $5.8 million hole in their finances or the shoddy materials used in the East River project. I sat at the head table, playing the dutiful wife, occasionally straightening Marcus's tie. Finally, William announced, raising his glass, "I want to thank my daughter-in-law, Elena, for her grace. Family is about forgiveness. Let's toast to this lovely couple." "Here, here." The room chorused. I lowered my head to hide the contempt burning in my eyes. Then, I looked up with a warm smile. "Marcus," I whispered, "I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you get what you deserve." "I know, baby." "Me too," he squeezed my hand, oblivious. "You can start right now." Leaving him confused, I took my cane and slowly walked up to the stage. I took the microphone from the MC. "Thank you all for coming," my voice rang out, clear and steady. "As the wife in this family, I've prepared a special anniversary gift." I gestured to the lighting booth. The lights dimmed. A massive 4K screen descended from the ceiling. Marcus's face tensed. A dawn of dread washed over him. "No, Elena, please don't." He tried to rush the stage. Dante materialized from the shadows, his hand clamping onto Marcus's shoulder like a vice, pinning him to his chair. "Enjoy the show, darling." I pressed the remote. The screen lit up. Crystal clear video footage of Marcus and Vanessa in my bed filled the room. The audio, the moans, the insults about me being a broke designer boomed through the surround sound speakers. Gasp. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Vanessa screamed and ran for the exit, but bodyguards blocked the doors. "But that's just the appetizer," I announced, clicking the remote. The screen shifted, bank statements, casino surveillance footage. My husband embezzled $5.8 million to gamble in Atlantic City, stalling the East River project and leaving hundreds of families homeless. Finally, an audio recording played. Marcus's voice, "I don't care if the workers get hurt. Just clear the site by tomorrow. Use force." The silence in the room was deafening. I walked towards the ashen-faced Marcus. "For 3 years, I secured 7 major contracts for you. I raised your stock price by 30%. My voice was a razor. "And you gave me betrayal, violence, and humiliation." Marcus collapsed to his knees, sobbing. "Elena, I'm sorry. I was wrong. But I forgive you." I suddenly raised my voice, turning to the stunned crowd. "Because I am just that loving of a wife." William Sterling scrambled onto the stage, snatching the mic. "It's a misunderstanding. As you can see, she forgave him. Please, enjoy the party." I descended the stage, walking through a sea of shocked stares toward Adrian. Magnificent, he handed me a glass of champagne. "Did you bring the files?" "The real financial statements. Sterling Developments is insolvent. The debt is 3 times what they reported." "Perfect for a short sale," Adrian smiled. "My firms are ready. We execute at market open." The party continued in a bizarre, macabre atmosphere. Marcus followed me like a kicked dog, begging. I maintained my dignified smile, looking for all the world like a saint embracing a sinner. "My dear William," I pulled my father-in-law aside. "Don't worry. I've told my father to halt the hostile takeover. We're family." He sighed in relief, wiping sweat from his brow. He had no idea I already owned 5% of his company through an offshore shell. With the 8% I was acquiring from disgruntled minority shareholders tonight, I was already the 4th largest shareholder. And by tomorrow, I would be the owner. After the party, Adrian drove me back to the Sterling mansion. Dante sat in the passenger seat, his eyes scanning every shadow. "Sterling stock will plummet next week," Adrian analyzed, checking his tablet. "The scandal plus the short pressure will send it into a nosedive for at least 3 consecutive trading days." "Good." I watched the city lights flash by. "When it hits rock bottom, we buy everything." When the car stopped, Adrian asked, "Did you really forgive him?" I smiled wryly, tapping my braced leg. "Mr. Cross, do you believe in loving your enemy?" "No." "Funny," I said. "Neither do I." Inside, Marcus was on his knees in the living room, weeping like a child. Looking down at him, I found the situation endlessly amusing. This was the man I once loved? This cowardly, spineless piece of trash? Elena, I was wrong. I was so wrong, he sobbed, grabbing the hem of my dress, smearing tears on the expensive silk. I stroked his hair gently, like petting a dog. Marcus, let's start over. He looked up, hope glimmering in his eyes. But, I continued, I need to see you're sincere. I hear Vanessa's father is bidding on the new North Shore project against us. Marcus understood immediately. I'll cut all ties with the Blackwoods tomorrow. I promise. Good boy. I patted his cheek. Now go to bed. You have work tomorrow. After he scurried upstairs, I went into his study and locked the door. I called my father. Papa. Phase 2. I need the evidence on the Blackwood smuggling operation. After the call, I deleted the party video from my laptop. This is just the beginning, husband, I whispered. You're about to learn that losing everything hurts far more than a broken bone. 3 days later, I was eating breakfast when Marcus came downstairs, looking like a ghost. Coffee? I offered. He refused, eyeing the cup suspiciously. My psychological warfare was working. He wouldn't touch food I handled. Oh, I donated your vintage Patek Philippe to the charity auction tonight, I said sweetly. Great PR for the changed man narrative. His jaw clenched. That watch was his grandfather's. Of course. I don't mind. As he fled the house, I checked the security feed. He immediately called Vanessa. 10 to 1 he's crying to her, I muttered. My phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Stock hit limit down. Short sale complete. And then, Dante appeared. Miss Elena, hospital checkup. Then the investigator. At the hospital, I ran into an unexpected person. Vanessa. She was exiting the OBGYN clinic, wearing sunglasses. I snapped a photo of her receipt. Positive pregnancy test. I zoomed in and laughed. A little devil was growing inside her. Later, at the investigator's office, a skinny hacker named Kay showed me surveillance footage. Here's Marcus and Vanessa at a motel yesterday, Kay said. And here's something better. He switched screens. William Sterling meeting Richard Blackwood in a cigar lounge. They meet every month. Have been for 25 years. Can you record them? Too much security. But use this. Kay handed me a fountain pen. Listening device. Leaving the office, I called my father. Papa, Vanessa is pregnant. And William and Richard have been meeting for decades. There was a long silence. Elena, the relationship between the Sterlings and Blackwoods goes back 25 years. To the fire. What fire? What happened 25 years ago? I'll find out. Just be careful at the auction tonight. At the auction, Vanessa cornered me. I heard about your leg. Shame. She rubbed her belly. Marcus is so excited about this baby. He's going to divorce you as soon as it's born. Is that so? I pulled out my tablet and played the motel recording. Marcus's voice. Why now? My wife controls everything. If she finds out, I'm dead. Vanessa turned ashen. You didn't even close the curtains, I sighed. Amateur. I stood up and shouted, Vanessa, you look so pale. Is it the baby? The room gasped. Vanessa Blackwood is pregnant with Marcus Sterling's child? Flustered, Vanessa tripped on her dress and fell hard. A dark stain spread on her white skirt. My baby, she shrieked. I watched coldly and dialed 911. Later, when Marcus heard the news, his first words weren't concern. They were, damn it. Now my father is going to kill me. That night, Marcus raged in his study. What did you do to her? She fell. But let's talk divorce. I tossed papers on the desk. I want the house and 5% of your shares. Insane. Or I release these photos of you with mobsters in Atlantic City. He froze. Fine. I'll think about it. Oh, and Vanessa lost the baby. Your dad must be relieved. He hates the Blackwoods, right? How did you know he hates them? Marcus looked suspicious. I called Kay immediately. Dig into William and Richard. 25 years ago. My phone vibrated. A recording from my father. Richard Blackwood's voice. William, have you forgotten? If I hadn't disposed of that body for you. My blood ran cold. Body? Was this connected to my mother's death? Lightning flashed outside. Ethan, divorce isn't the end, I whispered to my reflection. It's the signal for war. The drive to my father's estate felt like a funeral procession. The estate was hidden deep within a dense pine forest in upstate New York, surrounded by 12-foot walls and patrolled by men who moved like shadows. Throughout the journey, the recording played on a loop in my mind. Disposed of that body. Those words were jagged shards of glass in my brain, bleeding into my memories of my mother. We have arrived, Miss Elena, Dante said softly. I took a shaky breath and stepped out. My father, Vittorio, was in the Zen garden, practicing Tai Chi. His movements were fluid, deadly, and precise, a stark contrast to the frail man I saw in the hospital. Elena. He stopped, signaling for me to follow. The leg? I don't need the cane today. We entered his study, a sanctuary of mahogany and cigar smoke. He unlocked a hidden wall safe and retrieved a weathered, yellowing envelope. 25 years ago, when your mother fled, she was already carrying you. She didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left to protect you. He slid a grainy black and white photograph across the desk. It showed a young William Sterling standing next to a man I didn't recognize in front of a construction site. They were laughing, champagne in hand. Who is this? Thomas Blackwood, Vanessa's uncle. My father's voice dropped to a terrifying whisper. And the man who murdered your mother. I gripped the edge of the desk until my knuckles turned white. What? Back then, Sterling and the Blackwoods were running a redevelopment scam. Illegal demolitions. Intimidation. During a protest, Thomas Blackwood beat a man to death with a lead pipe. My father laid out a second document, a police report. Your mother saw it. She filmed it. She was going to the police. But they told me she died in a car accident. A lie, Vittorio sneered, his eyes burning with cold fire. Thomas ran her off the road 3 days later. The police closed the case because Sterling paid them off. And Thomas? Dead. A hunting accident a week after your mother's funeral. I looked at my father, and the darkness in his eyes told me exactly who had pulled the trigger. I've been gathering evidence for decades, he sighed. But their corruption goes too deep, until you married Marcus. You knew, I realized. You let me marry the son of the man who covered up my mother's murder? I didn't want you in this life, Elena. But now? Now you have your own pain to fuel you. I walked to the window, watching the pines sway. My mother wasn't just a victim, she was a martyr. Papa. I turned back, my voice trembling not with fear, but with rage. I want them to suffer. Not just Marcus. The entire Sterling and Blackwood legacy. Good. Vittorio poured 2 glasses of whiskey. First, we make the rats eat each other. I checked my phone. A text from Adrian. The report is live. The defective steel used in the East River project, I said, a cruel smile forming. Supplied by a shell company owned by Richard Blackwood. Precisely. And I just tipped off customs about Richard's special cargo containers. They're raiding the docks tonight. We clinked glasses. In that moment, I wasn't the grieving daughter. I was the heir to the syndicate. As I left, Dante handed me a tablet. Internal files K hacked from Sterling's server. Marcus didn't just gamble. He forged board minutes to mortgage the company's HQ. Change of plans. Dante, take me to Sterling Developments. It's time to crash a meeting. The top floor boardroom was in chaos. Through a bugged phone, I listened to the panic. The media is lying. Marcus's frantic voice echoed. We need to stabilize the stock. The safety report says the steel is garbage, Marcus. A senior director shouted. And the supplier is a Blackwood subsidiary. Did you know? Marcus stammered. I strode out of the elevator and threw open the double doors. Every head turned. Marcus stood at the head of the table, looking like a dead man walking. Sorry to interrupt, I said, taking a seat reserved for the majority shareholder. Elena? How did you gentlemen? I ignored my husband. My father just received word that the FBI is raiding a Blackwood warehouse as we speak. Smuggling rings, faulty steel, and Mr. Sterling here approved the contracts. The room exploded. Directors were shouting. Phones were ringing. You crazy bitch. Marcus lunged at me, but bodyguards stepped in before he got close. Careful, darling, I whispered. or I show them the mortgage papers you forged." Marcus froze, the color draining from his face. He knew it was over. The downfall was absolute. I left the building as the sun set, painting the sky in blood red. Back to the safe house. "Miss Elena?" "No." The eye stopped. In the side mirror, a black SUV swerved into our lane, mirroring our speed. "We have a tail," Dante said, his eyes narrowing. "Marcus's security chief." I recognized the driver. When a rat is cornered, it bites. "Hold on." Dante slammed the car into a sharp drift, entering a narrow alley. The SUV pursued. "Now!" Dante pressed a button on the dash. Thick, white smoke billowed from our exhaust, blinding the alley. He executed a perfect J-turn, escaping into a mall parking garage while the SUV crashed blindly into a dumpster. "He's desperate," Dante noted grimly. "Should the Dawn send a team?" "No." I adjusted my coat, my heart pounding a rhythm of war. "Let him come. It's time Marcus learned that I'm not the prey anymore." The safe house was a fortress in Tribeca, but the real war was happening on the news screens lining the wall. Breaking news. Richard Blackwood in custody. Massive smuggling ring exposed. Vance Industries stock was frozen. Sterling Developments was in freefall. The downfall was spectacular. My phone rang. "Marcus. You did this." His voice was ragged, hysteria clawing at his throat. "The board, the police. You planned it all." "I simply shined a light on the cockroaches, darling," I replied, sipping tea. "You think you've won? You evil." Glass shattered on his end. "I'm going to make you feel a pain worse than death." The line went dead. I shook my head. Empty threats from a man who had already lost. I texted Adrian. "Keep buying. We take the company at dawn." The next morning, Dante pounded on my door. "Problem. Marcus and Vanessa are gone. Fled. Taken." He handed me a tablet showing grainy CCTV footage. A silver van. Men in ski masks. Marcus and Vanessa were dragged kicking and screaming from the back entrance of the motel they were hiding in. My phone rang again. Unknown number. "Miss Moretti," a voice dripped with malice. "If you want to see your husband alive, come to Warehouse 4 at the docks." Alone. The smell of salt and rotting fish filled the air at the docks. I walked into the cavernous warehouse, my heels clicking on the concrete. Dante and a team of 6 elite bodyguards were positioned in the shadows outside, waiting for my signal. Inside, under a single flickering bulb, Marcus and Vanessa were tied to chairs, gagged and bruised. A man in a trench coat stood over them, the underboss of the Falcone family, my father's rivals. "The Dawn is dying, Elena," the man smirked, toying with a switchblade. "We're taking over the territory. And we're taking Sterling Developments. You kidnapped my cheating husband to negotiate a merger?" I laughed, the sound echoing in the empty space. "You're not very bright, are you? Sign the papers." He pressed the knife to Marcus's throat. Marcus's eyes bulged with terror, begging me. "Or what?" I stepped closer. "You'll kill him? Go ahead. You'd be doing me a favor. That man gave me nothing but betrayal." The Falcone boss hesitated. That split second was all Dante needed. Crash. Skylights shattered. Smoke grenades rained down. "Get down." Dante's voice roared in my earpiece. I dropped to the floor as the warehouse erupted in gunfire. It was surgical, precise. Within 60 seconds, the Falcone crew was on the ground, zip-tied. Dante pulled the gag off Marcus. "Elena." "Thank God." Marcus sobbed, snot running down his face. "They were going to kill us. We need to go." "We?" I looked at him with cold amusement. "I'm going home. You're going to prison." Sirens wailed in the distance. "What? Kidnapping? Attempted murder?" "The police are already here, Marcus. And I have the recording of you hiring that hitman to run me off the road yesterday." "No." "It was a setup," he screamed as Dante handed him over to the arriving officers. 4 days later, I stood at the podium in front of the Sterling HQ, now rebranded as Romano International. The acquisition was complete. "We will root out the corruption," I told the press, wearing my mother's black pearl necklace. The flashbulbs blinded me, but I didn't blink. I visited Marcus one last time. The visitation room was cold, smelling of bleach and despair. He looked 10 years older. 20 years. "Marcus," I said, picking up the receiver. "Fraud. Embezzlement. Conspiracy." It's a lie. Vanessa will testify for me. Vanessa took a plea deal. I delivered the blow calmly. She gave them everything. The illegal demolitions. The bribes. Oh, and the DNA test came back on the baby she lost. Marcus froze. What? It wasn't yours. I leaned in, my voice a whisper. It was your father's. William and his mistress. Keeping it all in the family to secure the inheritance. Marcus slumped back, his soul leaving his body. The ultimate karma. He had destroyed his life for a woman who was sleeping with his father. A month later, the sun set over the East River Park, a project I had turned into a community sanctuary. My father, Vittorio, passed away peacefully in his sleep 3 days after the trial, knowing his legacy was safe. He would have loved this view, Adrian said, wrapping his arms around me. He does, I smiled, touching the engagement ring on my finger. The cycle of violence ended with me. I wasn't just a survivor of a syndicate war or a broken marriage. I was Elena Moretti, and I had rebuilt my life from the ashes of their destruction. Ready to go home? Adrian asked. Yes, I kissed him. Let's go home. And that, my friends, is why you never mistake silence for weakness. Elena didn't just survive. She conquered. But I have to ask you, if you were in her shoes, would you have forgiven him for the sake of the family, or would you have burned it all down just like she did? I read every single comment, so let me know your thoughts below. Was justice served, or did she go too far? If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I have many more stories of secrets, lies, and sweet retribution waiting for you. Until next time, remember, the truth always comes out, and sometimes it wears high heels.